on these drums, I built a drum reverb for the choruses. So I'll just play a little bit of the chorus and then I'll mute it and you'll hear how dry the drums will get. So it's built to sound like a room, not like a big reverb on the drums. And in context, what it does is because the guitars get so much bigger, they suck all the air out of the drums. So in a way, the drums sound like nothing's happened. They just get a little bit beefier. But in the track, if I didn't do it, the drums would start to disappear and get really dry. So I knew I wanted to put a reverb on this, but I put it in the insert of a channel strip because I also knew with the drums, there's a lot of low end in the room that I love. And I don't want to get rid of that in the actual room tracks, but I don't want that going to the reverb. So I knew I was going to want to filter the drums coming into that. And then I also knew that I was going to need to take out some low mids after I had the reverb going because the reverb was going to be a bit boomy because it was going to be a dense room. So inside of this, in the insert, I've got an IR1 that's got Schnee Studios, which is a fantastic sounding live room. It's a room that's now part of Larrabee in LA. And just while we're on IR1, one of the great things about IR1 as an impulse response reverb is you have this decorrelation control, which all it does is make shit super wide. We can talk like that, right?
Totally, we can.
I don't know. It's a family show. And the family swears. So I love this decorrelation control. So you've just got control over the reverb time, which, that's not a unique thing. But this decorrelation is rather unique. And I'll and I don't know if you'll be able to hear necessarily the decorrelation with the drum kit in, but it really helps spread it out. I mean, I'm hearing it in my headphones fine, where you hear the low end start to push out to the sides, and that feels like what happens when you're driving a room. But because it's sitting inside of this, first of all, I can filter it beforehand. I can de-S it, which I'm actually de-booming it afterwards. And if I needed to take cymbals out, I could do that, take some sibilants out. But what it also means is if I build this and I really, really, really like it, I can just save it as a preset, either in the Waves presets or in the Pro Tools presets. And when I recall it, it not only recalls the channel strip, but it recalls the plugin that's in the insert and all of its parameters as well.
That's pretty powerful.
It's really good. And I do it a lot because you almost always want to treat stuff. And so I did the same thing here. Oh, no, I didn't actually. I just went for the distortion on the drums dirt. So this is just a distortion. So I'd already done some pre-processing and some post-processing with some EQ, and I just decided to go ahead and leave that. But again, I could have wrapped that inside of an omni-channel and just popped in the insert. And as you saw here, these modules don't always have to be in the same order. Like I moved the de-esser later because I was thinking, well, I might want to EQ, but then I would suck upper mids out if I needed to, which it turns out I didn't. But you can change where the insert is. So the order of these modules and the insert, you can change on every instance of the plugin.
So I have a question here from the comments that we can't see that are underneath this this live stream. Henry says, your omni-channel has become my favorite plugin. It's a great learning tool. Will you take a moment to talk about when you choose to EQ before or after you compress in the omni-channel?
Yeah, basically, when we first designed it, I'll call up one that doesn't have an insert just because it's a bit easier, and I think this is the standard order. When we designed it, originally, it was going to have a pre-dynamic CQ and a post-dynamic CQ. But then we just decided it took up too much real estate and it could potentially take up too much CPU. So that's why the insert was born. So one of the choices in the insert, if you look at EQ, is SOC, which is Scheps Omnichannel EQ. So you can have two identical EQs in the channel strip and put them wherever you want. So the default order for me is generally the order I would work in. So I'm EQing before the compressor most of the time. Now, you could easily swap that and you can make the case for either one. If you're going to be doing drastic EQ to something, then I think you probably want to do it post-compressor. because you're going to be pushing a lot of frequencies, and that's going to push into the detector on the compressor, and you're just going to compress more. So then you can't really just EQ, because every time you're changing your EQ, you're also changing the compression. It's a little bit harder to hear what's happening. So with drastic EQ, I'd put it after the compressor. And that's also why the high pass and low pass filter are in the preamp section, not the EQ. So if we decide to, oh, it's not enabled, so it doesn't want to move. So if I decide that I'm going to EQ after the compressor, but I need to take care of some low end before the compressor, you still have filters before. So you don't have to use the insert just to get filters.